Hello everybody, it's Jimmy, and today we're talking about Veganic Seed Starting Mix. You can find this recipe in the Veganic Grower's Handbook. It's a recipe that I created for two reasons. One, I wanted a veganic mix, and it's absolutely impossible to find one that's completely amended that our little seedlings and then our transplants would want here in Quebec. And two, I wanted to make a mix that I didn't have to liquid fertilize at all inside the greenhouse. I've never really liked liquid fertilizer, so in the end, this is what I've come up with. So, it all starts with substrate. We're going to use peat moss. Now, there's a whole thing against peat moss, and I understand why people don't want to use peat moss. It's very destructive to pull the peat moss out of the earth. I get that. You can substitute with coconut coir. I'm not sure that's any better. You can go ahead and try to use something else like chip branch wood that's completely broken down and composted, or leaf mold that's completely broken down and composted. But other than what I have found with Ian Tolhurst's method, which I haven't been able to use because I cannot find an access of chip branch wood, I'm not 100% satisfied with those results. It doesn't mean that I don't keep doing trials. I just know this is what I find. But the other thing about this is you can find all these ingredients at your local nursery. None of them should be too difficult to find. A little other thing about peat moss that I do talk about in the Veganic Grower's Handbook is we only use 0.03% of all the peatlands in Canada for horticultural use. Actually, most of the peatlands are being ripped up for all of those green minerals for our cell phones, laptops, pads, and now all these wonderful, you tell me if they're green electric cars that they're making. So it's really not the horticultural industry at all, but it's our new green technology that's ripping up our peatlands. However, if you can find a substitute, it is better. But for now, this is what we're going to use. So you have your bucket of peat moss. We're going to mix it with dolomite lime. After that, we're going to put in a little bit of perlite and vermiculite. The dolomite lime is so that we can bring up the alkalinity level of the peat moss, because peat is very acid, and your little seedlings, after they germinate, they're going to want to have a pH around 6 or so at least. So to put in the dolomite lime, add a half a cup per bucket. So a half a cup of dolomite lime per 5-gallon bucket of peat moss is going to be enough to bring up that pH. After that, we're going to put in the perlite and the vermiculite. The perlite is going to help with aeration of the peat moss, because the peat moss is going to act like a sponge. And vermiculite is really kind of optional. Vermiculite actually works the same as peat moss. Vermiculite is going to absorb water as opposed to the perlite, which percolates water. So P, percolate, V, vermiculite. Well, absorb, but A and V don't go together. Anyway, so vermiculite is for absorption. So you can leave it out if you want. And I actually now, since I wrote the Veganic Grower's Handbook, I'm actually using less. To that, we're going to add a colloidal rock phosphate, which is a fossilized rock that is found in ancient seabeds. That is mine. Unfortunately, it's another unsustainable product. We can hopefully in the future find something with more phosphorus to put in our mix, but for now, we can use it. Just use it very, very moderately, and only use it with your seedlings. After that, we're going to use a sustainable product in the region, which is seaweed. Now, there are some more sustainable than others, and I actually found an interesting one at one of our seed festivals called Storm, which is out of Prince Edward Island. And this particular one uses a mix of 3 different kinds of seaweeds: green, red, and brown. And it actually has quite a higher potassium level, 1.9, as to normal seaweed, which is normally just brown, I think, which she was telling me, which is just at 1 part per quantity of potassium. After that, we're going to add in just a little bit more soil here. I have some leftover soil from last year. It's just a little bit of peat moss mixed with perlite, mixed with some compost. You can also just use veganic compost in this method. You want to add this basically as a filler, and it just is a cheaper way to add more sort of mass to your potting mix. Because if you just use peat moss, it's going to get a little expensive, but if you use your own compost, or if you find sort of a potting mix, it'll sort of just make the whole mix go a little bit longer, allow you to do a little bit more seedlings. On top of that, we're going to put in our fertilizer, not very much. I have soybean meal here, which unfortunately I have found is extremely hard to find now. It seems like the company Down to Earth Organics that was producing it does not produce it anymore. So you can substitute with either cottonseed meal or alfalfa meal, neem seed meal. Now, I don't know the sustainable qualities of neem seed meal. Cottonseed meal is very difficult to find organic. There is a company called Espoma, which does have organic cottonseed meal. If you can't find it, at the very least, try to get cottonseed meal that isn't GMO. Do the best you can. After that, we're going to put in some mycorrhizae. I just have a little bit left here. It's in a little container that it's not peanut butter like it says. And then also alfalfa meal. And alfalfa meal you can pretty much find everywhere. I've tried this mix with just alfalfa meal. I find it doesn't have quite enough nutrients to do everything that we want to do once the seedlings break the surface. The soybean meal has a 6 parts per quantity of nitrogen, so it really does bring up the amount of nutrition, the nitrogen that the little seedlings want as they're growing big and strong. As we mix, it's pretty simple. You find an old trusty wheelbarrow, you find an old trusty shovel, and you just go for it. Make sure you have some nice water. Today in the greenhouse, it's 13 degrees. Outside, it's 7. And here's Leo. He's checking the temperature for us. And yeah, so that's basically the mix. You can find all this information in the Veganic Grower's Handbook. This is just to try to describe it a little bit more. If you ever have any questions, as always, you can go ahead and shout out to me either through the YouTube channel, Facebook page, or veganicgrower@gmail.com, or at the Certified Veganic Grower website, NAVCS, or Certified Veganic.org website. And the email address for that is certifiedveganic.info@info.org. info@certifiedveganic.org. And there you go. So have yourself a great day, and I hope you do well with your seedlings this year. As we're coming to the end of winter, it is time to start. So enjoy.